Okay, so we're going to have a look at a different extract today, but just to remind you, in the previous extract, you remember Olive and Cliff are in a cinema with their older sister Susie, who left the film to use the toilet. During the film, before I think it's Suki actually, Suki came back to the film, the air raid siren sounded and everyone was ordered to leave the cinema. So do you remember that from yesterday? Okay, so we're going to actually look at the text now, and I'm going to read it out loud and you can follow with me. Okay, so I'm going to take it from I took a deep breath. So hopefully you can find that in front of you now and you can track with me. Okay, here we go. I took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. Stay here, Cliff. I'm going to try and find... A hand came heavily down on my shoulder. You, lassie, and you, laddie. It was the main man in charge. What are you dithering here for? I tried to explain. My sister's in the toilet. I've just checked the lavs. Ain't nobody left inside us but us, sweetheart. The second voice was from a woman's. Two sets of hands steered us towards the door. Before I could shrug them off, we were out on the pavement. The noises, the smells of burning hit me at once. I felt a jolt of pure, cold fear. Up in the sky, searchlight beams crisscrossed the darkness. Already I could hear the faint crack-crack of our guns as the German aircraft got closer, and fought the urge to cover my head and protectively with my arms. I don't like it, Olive, Cliff muttered. I didn't either. And until we found Suki, I was the big sister, the responsible one. That was pretty alarming too. Don't worry, I told him. A stupid thing to say, but it was all I could think of. Suki's probably waiting for us in the shelter. We hurried down the street after the last few stragglers. By now the roads were almost deserted. On the corner, an air raid warden waved frantically, the white stripes of his uniform dimly visible in the blackout. Hurry up, you lot, he shouted. What are you waiting for, Christmas? Still holding Cliff's hand, I crossed the road. Thankfully, there in front of us was the tube station, busy with men, women and a few little children, who were heading through the entrance with packets of sandwiches and pillows under their arms. Moving amongst the crowd was a woman's Royal Voluntary Service person in her navy blue uniform, hurrying people inside. Come on, you two, she said, seeing Cliff and me on our own without a grown-up. I was glad to have an adult take charge. There's going to be cake and board games laid on tonight. It'll be quite a party down there. Cliff, liking the sound of it, reached out to take her hand. In doing so, he let go of mine. He was only a few paces ahead of me, going down the steps with the nice WRVS lady. I just happened to glance behind, at a sound, at a sense, something. There was Suki, looking around in panic. The relief made my legs go weak. Suki! I yelled, waving madly. Over here! Okay, so let's look at the questions now. Okay, I'll just make them a little bit bigger. Not too big, because otherwise you're not going to see it, are you? There we go. Okay, so question 1. Find and write a synonym for each of the words below. Just remember, you've got to check that the synonym you choose have the same meaning in the context of the text. So remember, a synonym, do we remember what that is? That's a word that has a similar meaning, okay? It's a different word but has a similar meaning. So we've got the words here, dithering, jolt and urge. So the first thing you need to do is actually find those words in the text, okay? Reread that sentence to get a sense of what's happening and what you think those words mean, okay? Dithering, jolt and urge. And then you can try using a synonym to actually replace those words and see that it still makes sense. So it's really important that it has the same meaning in the context. Don't just look in a thesaurus and just choose any word. You've got to really be careful with the word you select. Okay, so number 2. When Olive and Cliff are guided out of into the street, they're met by a very dramatic scene. Write down some examples of how the author uses senses to describe what is going on outside the cinema. So you've got to find the bit where they're going onto the street and what they see when they go out and they're guided out onto the street. So it's very dramatic. And it wants you to try and think of the author and what the author uses senses-wise. So thinking about the 5 senses, we've got the hear, the sight, the smell, the touch, the feel. Okay, so we've got those 5 senses, all right? So think about what's being described. And number 3, there's going to be cake and board games laid on tonight. It'll be quite a party down there. So the question actually, that's a quotation. The question actually says, how would you feel about spending the night in London Underground air raid shelter during a bombing raid? And it wants to give reasons for your answers. Okay, so that's really about your own opinion. You've got to explain how you would feel. So it's really trying to get into that character and think of yourself in that situation and how you think you would feel. All right, just remember all those images that you saw from last week as this week as well with your writing. Okay, with all those images of the air raid shelter and people huddled together in those. All right, so just think very carefully about how you would feel and giving reasons why you would feel that. Okay, I think that's everything. So happy book talking, and I shall see you all again tomorrow. Bye.